Disputes are part of managing a business and can seem complicated at times. So today I'm joined by our speakers, Vaz and Paddy, who will take you through the process and how to make it easier for you and your business. Going over the next slide, we'll look at today's agenda and how we will provide an overview of the American Express disputes process, followed by a Q&A session. So today we will cover the American Express disputes process, next the disputes policy updates, what to do when you're presented with inquiries and chargebacks, how you can prevent disputes, how to manage disputes online, and how to manage fraud. So now I'll pass over to Vaz to commence the session. Thank you and enjoy the presentation.
Thank you so much, Nicola. Good morning and good afternoon to all those who've been able to make it to this session. I'm truly excited to be here interacting with you today and talking about a subject that matters to all of us. Before I begin, just a quick introduction. My name is Vasant. You can address me as Vaz in the Q&A or the chat box. And I lead the merchant relationship team for the JAPA region, and I work very closely with various internal groups to help our merchants with the dispute and chargeback process. I want to begin by defining what is a dispute. A dispute is a situation that occurs when a card member has an issue with a transaction that has been billed by you, the merchant, on their statement. Now, there could be a variety of reasons, but most common examples that we see from our card members coming up as dispute reasons are no knowledge, canceled transaction, and card members denying participation or indicating that there is a fraudulent activity on their account. We'll cover these dispute reasons in a little bit more detail in the upcoming slides. Now, when a card member has an issue with a transaction on their statement, as a first step, they will reach out to their issuer customer service. The customer service will understand their request, and depending upon the details provided by the card member, the issuer may contact us in one of two ways. The first mode of contact is known as an inquiry, and as the name suggests, inquiry is basically a request for additional information that American Express will send to you. Once an inquiry has been sent to you, you will have 20 days to submit the documents in response to the inquiry. Now, these are 20 calendar days, meaning it includes weekends as well. Now, during the course of the 20 days, we would expect you to provide us with supporting documentation addressing the card member's claim. Depending upon what you provide to us, there could be one of two outcomes. Either the case gets resolved based on the documents that you provide to us with the issuer, or in the event we do not receive a response from you or receive an insufficient response from you, it could result in a chargeback. Depending upon how you are enrolled with us on our online platform, known as online merchant servicing or merchant interactive in different markets, a notification is sent to you either in a paper format, which you see on the left-hand side on the screen, or electronically as a notification on the merchant interactive or online merchant servicing tool platform. Here, I would urge all our participants who are not yet enrolled on our merchant interactive or online merchant servicing tool to please enroll yourself for ease of operation as far as managing disputes is concerned. And for those of you who prefer to receive paper notification, it is important that your address is updated as and when there is a need. Therefore, the letters reach the physical address as notified on our systems. The other way in which an issuer may contact us is again dependent on the claim as well as the information provided to them by the card member. Based on the information provided, the issuer may raise what is known as an upfront chargeback. This is a notification that is sent to you. However, along with that, the disputed amount is also debited. With that said, you will continue to receive 20 calendar days to submit documents as a rebuttal to the chargeback that has been issued to your account. Now, depending upon how you respond to us within those 20 days, there could be one of two outcomes. If the supporting documentation that you've provided is sufficient to address the card member's claim, the chargeback gets reversed and reapplied to the card member's account. In the event we do not receive a response from you or receive an insufficient response from you, the chargeback continues to remain on your account. As an illustration, for those of you who are on the paper notification mode, you will receive a paper notification for the chargeback. And for those of you who are on the online merchant servicing or merchant interactive tool, you will receive a notification online in that platform. To summarize the disputes process, a customer initiates a dispute with the issuer customer service. As a first step, the issuer customer service representative will provide all the details that are available in our systems internally to address the card member's claim. In the event the card member continues to persist on the dispute, they may contact us in one of two ways. The first being inquiry, which is a request for additional information and allows you 20 calendar days to submit documents. Based on your response, the claim could either be resolved with the issuer directly or could result in a chargeback in the event we do not receive a response or receive insufficient response. The second mode is upfront chargeback, is again dependent on the relevant details that the card member may provide at the time of disputing the transaction, which again gives you 20 calendar days to submit the documents. And depending upon your response, the chargeback could get reversed or continue to remain on your account. The key takeaway from this slide for all of you is the 20-day time frame. Please ensure that you provide us with the response within the 20 days time frame so that we have a chance to defend the chargeback or respond to the inquiry on your behalf. In the next section, I will walk you through what are the steps that you need to keep in mind when you're responding to a chargeback or an inquiry. Whenever an inquiry or a chargeback is sent to you, timing is key. Please keep in mind 20 days time frame that you get in order to respond to an inquiry or a chargeback. If we do not receive a response from you within the 20-day time frame, it will result in a no reply chargeback. Now, when you do respond to us, please bear in mind to provide us with clear documentation addressing the card member's claim. Our inquiry or a chargeback may carry additional details that the card member would have provided to us at the time of disputing the transaction. We suggest that you address those specific details if available. If there are contracts or copy of the agreement or terms and conditions available pertaining to the transaction or the service that you have billed for, please ensure that you provide it to them along with your response so that we are able to address the card member's claim clearly. As a recommendation, your documents must include a copy of the charge record or credit record or other supporting documentation. Please address the card member's specific dispute claim in your response. Also, clearly explain all of the submitted documents, terms and conditions, refund policies that you are attaching with your response. And also, if possible, provide us with the steps that you have taken to address the card member's claim directly. There are situations where, while the card member may dispute a transaction with us, they may also be working with you directly in order to address the issue. In such scenarios, if you have taken additional steps to address the card member's claim, please make us aware of that so that we can include it in our response when we get back to the issuer. And to end the slide, I would further emphasize on the 20-day time frame that you need to keep in mind so that your account does not get debited for a no reply chargeback. Once an inquiry has been sent to you, there are two types of chargebacks that can happen as an outcome. One is known as the no reply chargeback that we just spoke about. It happens when we do not receive a response within the 20-day time frame. In order for you to make sure that you respond to us within the time frame, please bear in mind to respond to us not towards the end of the deadline, but somewhere earlier than the deadline so that you have time in hand to put together the documents and provide it to us. One of the other ways to make it easier for you is enrollment into our online merchant servicing or merchant interactive tool. Many of you may already be enrolled on the payments portal, and it will be easier for you to transition into the disputes portal. We will briefly touch upon that tool in the upcoming slide. The second form of a chargeback happens when you do respond to us within the 20-day time frame. However, the documents provided do not address the card member's claim. For example, a card member may request a refund for a service that they have canceled. And when we send a chargeback notification to you, you respond to us stating card member is not due for a refund. Unfortunately, this response is insufficient. What we urge you to provide to us are also the reasons why the card member is not due for a refund. It could be your terms and conditions at the time of purchase. It could be that the card member purchased a non-refundable service, or the card member did not follow the guidelines of cancellation. There could be many reasons. As long as you are able to provide us with a brief explanation and related terms and conditions pertaining to the cancellation, we would be in a position to defend the chargeback with the issuer. Now, in the beginning of the presentation, I briefly touched upon some common reasons of dispute. In the next slide, I'm going to go a little deeper into the reasons and what we expect from you when you receive those disputes from us. Let me begin by no knowledge. A no knowledge scenario happens when a card member does not recognize the transaction that has been billed on their account. There are a few reasons why this happens. The most common one being the name as it appears on the card member statement is different than the name by which the merchant does their business. There are also situations where a merchant may bill the card member after a little bit of a delay. For example, I may avail or purchase something today, but the merchant may bill my account 2 weeks down the line. This kind of member not recognizing the transaction. The inquiry for this particular dispute reason is sent via a code 6014. We don't expect you to memorize it. It's available as a glossary item in this slide, as well as on the Merchant Interactive or online merchant servicing tool if you are enrolled in the disputes portal. In order for you to respond to this inquiry, we expect you to provide us with the details of the transaction. If an itemized folio or a list of items purchased is available, we would expect you to provide it to us. If there are terms and conditions, contract, agreements that are pertaining to this transaction, we expect you to provide it to us. Any document that will help us juggle the memory of the card member so that they are able to recognize the transaction would be much appreciated. The second form of dispute that is commonly received is known as cancelled product or service. This pertains to situations where a card member, after having purchased a service or a travel booking or a product, may eventually cancel it. In certain scenarios where a card member may have purchased merchandise online or at store, they may return the product and would expect a refund. So any claim where a card member is requesting for a refund would fall under this category. You will be contacted with the code 4513 for a cancellation or refund due. You could also be contacted with the code 4544 if you are in the business of recurring billing services. In order for you to rebuttal this chargeback, we expect you to provide us with clear terms and conditions and cancellation policy basis which the card member may not be due for a refund. We urge you to address the status of the cancellation of the card member. And if we have no record of the card member canceling the charge, please let us know. And please bear in mind the 20-day time frame. The next one is known as card not present. Now, card not present basically means a dispute where a card member denies participating in a mail order, telephone order, or internet charge and claims it as fraud. In order for you to appeal to this chargeback, we urge you to provide us with as much details as possible so that we can work with the issuer to address the situation. If you are on the online merchant servicing tool or Merchant Interactive, you will receive this chargeback notification via code 4540. In this section, I want to walk you through some of the steps that you could take to prevent or mitigate disputes coming to your establishment. First of all, we request our merchants to provide us with clear billing statement details at the time of submission. There are instances where the doing business as name of the merchant is different from the name by which the transaction appears on their account. We have an illustration that we have put up on the presentation for you. A card member may have had food at the Seaview restaurant. However, when the transaction gets billed, it appears as ABC Hospitality. Now, chances are some of this information could be available with us, and we provide that information at the time when the card member calls in to state no knowledge of the transaction. And more often than not, the card member may not proceed with the dispute. But in instances where the information is not available with us, it may result in a dispute being set up. So if we are able to get the clear billing statement details, we can avoid disputes of this nature. At the time of purchase, please ensure that you keep a record of consent. If it is in the form of an agreement or a contract, please ensure that the card member has signed it and acknowledged the terms and conditions and the cancellation policy or the refund policy. If merchandise needs to be shipped or needs to be delivered, please ensure that you retain the proof of delivery of any orders that may have been shipped to the card member's shipping address. Also, please take note of the cancellation, return, refund, or any special terms and conditions related to the purchase are provided to the card member, and the card members are made aware of it at the time of purchase. This will help make sure that the transaction is transparent and the chances of card member disputing them gets very minimal. In the event a merchandise or a service is being delayed, please proactively notify the card members about any potential delay that may happen that could also prevent the card members from raising it as a dispute. Now, when it comes to your practices and policies, one of the areas where we would like to emphasize are if the card member is due for a refund, we urge you to process and submit the credits as soon as possible. If you are in the recurring billing service and basis the card member's cancellation date, if there are future billings in the pipeline, please notify the card member beforehand that post cancellation there may be one or two billing that might happen depending upon the billing cycle. Also, if you are an in-store merchant, we request you to explore how you can document your return policy or the cancellation policy on the sales slip or the invoice, so that at the time of purchase, when it is presented to the card member, it can be considered as an acknowledgement that the card member was aware of the return policy. In this section, I'm going to talk about managing disputes online. Through the previous slides, I kept touching upon the Merchant Interactive or the online merchant servicing tool. I suppose many of you are enrolled into our payments portal, and therefore it will be easier for you to transition into the disputes portal and manage your disputes online. It's a tool that provides you with a one-stop shop access to all the disputes that are sent to you, either an inquiry or a chargeback, and helps you keep track of the timelines within which you need to respond. It also allows you to upload your documents electronically, and the Merchant Interactive or the online merchant servicing tool could present those documents directly to our system. This also saves you the hassle of going through paper trail, depending upon faxes to send us the documents, and helps you manage your disputes online within the timeframes that are prescribed. If you are on the online merchant servicing tool or the Merchant Interactive tool, we have put up an illustration of how the disputes dashboard will look like. We've highlighted the links with which you can track the status of a dispute. You can submit the documents. It also provides you with the reason for the dispute, what is the type of the inquiry, and so on and so forth. We've also given you the links on the presentation, which you can access to know more about the online merchant servicing or the Merchant Interactive tool. And if any one of you is interested in enrolling yourself, please feel free to reach out to us on our customer service number. In the last section for the disputes and chargeback, I want to walk you through about how to manage or mitigate fraud. Now, as an American Express merchant, you have access to our fraud mitigation tools absolutely free of charge. Now, let me talk about the card present transactions first before moving on to the card not present transactions. In case of a card present transaction, chip pin or a chip sign mode of transaction is considered to be safest when it comes to mitigating fraud. We urge you to encourage your card members to present their card and we urge you to dip the card in the card machine so that the transaction can be authenticated either via a chip pin or a chip sign. One of the ways to find out how to make these transactions, as soon as you dip the card, you can follow the instructions that are presented in the card machine. If the card machine prompts you for a PIN, please make sure that the card member enters the PIN in order to authenticate the transaction. When a card is being presented to you at the time of purchase, please also review the card for any damages, any visible damages. The expiry date is another information that helps you validate whether the card is valid or not. Therefore, we request you to look at the expiry date and make sure that the card is not expired. One of the key features of the American Express card is the 4-digit security code is put on the face of the card instead of the back of the card, like in other card schemes. These are some features that you can bear in mind when you are accepting a card at the time of purchase in order to make a transaction. Now, when it comes to card not present, SafeKey is a fraud authentication tool that is available for you to incorporate in your payment processing that allows the card member to authenticate a transaction via a one-time password. Apart from this, we also have enhanced authorization, which provides you with additional data elements that can help you make fraud risk assessment at your end before you approve a transaction. The last one is known as Verify It. It's a link that is available to our merchants through which they can validate some of the details provided to you by the card member through a credit card authorization form. We've seen this tool to be commonly used by our hotel merchants when they receive reservation request via a credit card authorization form. They can validate the details of the card member provided in the form, for example, the name, the billing address, the zip code, through this tool to make sure that the information provided is authentic. But before I move on, I want to just emphasize one point. When it comes to card not present, it is the usage of SafeKey that will provide you with the fraud liability shift. The enhanced authorization and Verify It, though, are considered as tools, but when it comes to the fraud chargeback, these two tools would not provide you with the fraud mitigation tool, but it's only SafeKey that will do so. And that's why it is important that you consider SafeKey as a critical tool for your online business. Our SafeKey tool is a 3D secure authentication and helps reduce online fraud through a two-factor authentication. We have provided you with the links for both Australia as well as Singapore market if you want to know more. And we'll be more than happy to connect you with our team, which can help you understand what are the few features of the tool and how it can be implemented. Now, in terms of benefit, we've seen that SafeKey helps optimize operational efficiency by reducing the costs of fraud at your end. It also helps drive incremental revenue by giving customers and prospects the confidence to spend. When customers see that the merchants have an additional layer of security which helps prevent fraud, it is considered as it helps build the confidence in our card members to transact in those websites more. And it's a tool which can be implemented with ease within your existing infrastructure. As I mentioned, if you would like to know more about the SafeKey tool, please feel free to reach out to us on our customer service number, or you can connect with your client manager who can help you provide with additional information. Now that brings us to the end of the first section about disputes and chargeback. I would now hand it over to my colleague, Padmaja, who would walk you through the policy updates. Over to you, Paddy.
Thank you so much, Vas. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Padmaja. You can call me as Paddy. As Vas mentioned, disputes are complex and it may sound like a big pain point. We hear you. Not to worry. We keep introducing new policies and we keep amending the existing policies so that you have a seamless dispute experience. We keep the policies fair and balanced. By doing so, you'll also have reduced dispute and chargeback numbers, and the process becomes easier for you. With that, let's see some of the policies in place. Moving on to the next slide. The first policy talks about revised SafeKey fraud liability policy. Yes, as the name suggests, you will be getting the fraud liability benefit over here. Transactions that are safe key authorized and transactions that are safe key attempted will be protected from fraud, meaning that the merchant's account will not be debited. For more details about the policy, we can help you connect with our safe key experts. The next two policies talks about estimated authorization. I'll walk about this in detail in the upcoming slide. The fourth point talks about the second presentment rights for cancelled recurring billing chargebacks. As we all know, recurring billing is a card not present transaction. It could be for a magazine subscription, it could be for a gym membership, or even a video streaming like Netflix are recurring billing chargebacks. Here we heard the merchant concern here. Few merchants told us that the win rate for these kind of disputes is fairly low. Thereby, we introduced the second presentment rights. If your merchants could help us prove that the card member did not abide by the terms and conditions, we'll help you defend these chargebacks. The next one is an interesting one, raised contactless threshold. This policy was introduced during the pandemic. The first thought which came to our mind during the pandemic was the merchants and our card members' safety. We wanted to minimize the contact with the point of sale terminal. So let's look at the Australia market. Before the pandemic, the contactless threshold was 100 Australian dollars. Now it's been permanently revised to 200 Australian dollars. Now for New Zealand, it was 80 New Zealand dollars in the past, and now it's 200 New Zealand dollars. Singapore already had a very good threshold of 200, so we did not make any changes to that. The last point talks about recurring billing. We've introduced few requirements for merchants who offer free trial and introductory offer. I'll walk about this in detail in the next slide. And this policy is in effect only from April 2021. So moving on to the next slide, estimated authorization. Estimated authorization already existed for industries like cruise and lodging. So this is the first time we are introducing it for taxi, limousines, card not present retail, and grocery. Talking about the first industry, taxi and limousines. The merchant expressed concern over here. Sometimes the final bill is different from the initial authorized amount. Let's take an example over here. A card member took a ride for $100. He was extremely happy with the ride and he paid a tip of $10. Before this policy was in place, the merchant had to submit $100 separately and $10 separately. This caused confusion at the card members' end and it added more work for our merchants. Now, with this policy being in place, the merchant can submit all in one single charge. The only watch out is the final amount should not be more than 20% from the initial authorized amount. Looking at the next industry, card not present retail and grocery. The merchant expressed their concern over here, stating that sometimes there is a variation in the shipping and the weight charges. So let's take a common example here. The card member ordered 1 kg of apple, but the final weight turned out to be 1.2 kg. Because of the difference in weight, there was a difference in amount. Now the merchant could submit all in one charge. The only watch out is the final amount should not be more than 15% from the initial authorized amount. So to summarize, taxi and limousines have a 20% variance and card not present retail and grocery have a 15% variance. So moving on to the next slide. This slide talks about recurring billing. So this is for merchants who offer free trial and introductory offer. As we all know, every card member is thrilled to take up the introductory offer in the free trial. But card members express some concern over here. Thereby, we introduce few requirements. Even other card schemes have these similar requirements. And this policy is effect only beginning April 16, 2021. So you have ample amount of time to build these requirements. Let's see these requirements. The first step, simple and easy cancellation process. Make sure the cancellation process is easy for the card member. At any point of time the card member wishes to cancel, keep it simple. Remember, if the process is going to be complicated, it's anyway going to come back as a dispute. So let's keep the process simple and easy for the card member. Obtain consent. Make sure that the card member accept the terms and conditions. The third point talks about enrollment confirmation. Once the card member enrolls for recurring billing, please make sure that you send a confirmation to the card member in writing. It could either be through email, text, or letter. The most important one, reminder notification. Every card member tends to forget that they are enjoying the free period. So it's very important that we remind the card members that they are on the free period and the charge is going to get the card account soon. So do send a reminder notification. Again, the reminder could either be through email, text, or letter. With that, we almost come to the end of the policy slides. I would like to say that we have your back. We'll continue to hear from you and we'll help you defend your disputes and chargeback. I'm also happy to say that the first edition of the Merchant International Regulations is available and the link is provided in the next slide. Moving on to the next slide. The link is given here. With that, I'll hand it over to Alice. Alice, over to you.
Thanks so much, Patty and Beth. Hi, everyone. This is Alice, and I'm your host today. Now it's the Q&A session. Please feel free to raise your questions via the Q&A function at the bottom right-hand corner of the WebEx page. It would be great if you could let us know if you are from Singapore or Australia, so the team can better address your questions. So now is the Q&A session. Feel free to ask your questions. I can see some questions coming through. So there's one question regarding the dispute time frame. Would be great the team can help addressing. So regarding the dispute time frame of 20 days, are any levy given to some merchants that are unable to respond due to extended lockdown and underpaid payment option? This is a question for Australia.
Thank you, Alice. I can take that question. That's a great question, first of all, for the benefit of the attendees that we have here. I think, when in terms of the 20-day time frame, while we encourage, you all to, adhere to the 20-day time frame, we did realize that, due to the pandemic, due to the lockdown, there were some restrictions due to which the merchants were unable to respond. So, so for that purpose, we had, extended the time frame earlier. However, now the time frame is back to 20 days. In the event, there were uncontrollable reasons due to which you were unable to respond, please raise it with us. We can attempt to make a good faith, courtesy attempt with the issuer, with the documents that you provide to us. Suppose, the dollar amount of the dispute is relatively higher, or there were other reasons due to which, you were unable to respond within that time frame. You can raise the issue with the customer service. We can make a good faith attempt with the issuer. However, the decision to reverse the chargeback would solely be upon the issuer. The reason being that, issuers are governed by their own local regulations and local laws, which may not allow them to, reverse a previously issued credit beyond a certain time frame. We'll be happy to look into those cases purely on a courtesy basis, depending upon the reason why you were not able to respond.
Thanks so much, Les. I can see one question coming from the chat box. So again, merchants, we highly recommend you to type in your questions in the Q&A function underneath the chat box. So the team can, everyone will be able to see your questions and the team can come back to you directly. So this question is about the limit. What about the limit for tips adjustments for F&B outlets? Second team, would you able to help addressing this? Thank you.
Hi, Alice, sorry, this is Vasant. Could you just repeat that question? I couldn't hear it clearly.
So the merchant is asking about the limit for tips adjustments for F&B outlets.
Okay. Paddy, would you be in a position to take this one up?
Yeah, is it about the contactless threshold, Alice? I didn't get the question.
So merchant, I guess the question is about the contactless
limit. Could you help address this? If this is not answering your question, merchants, feel free to elaborate a bit on your questions. Thank you.
Yeah, just for the benefit of everyone, I'll repeat that again. For Australia market, now the contactless threshold is 200 Australian dollars. And for Singapore, again, it's 200 Singapore dollars. So anything about this threshold, the card member has to enter the PIN at the point of sale.
Thanks, Patty. And I hope we have already answered your question, but feel free to ask your, if you have any further doubts, please raise your questions in the Q&A function. And I have another one from a Singapore merchant. The merchant would like to double check on the percentage for pre-authorization for Singapore.
Okay, I can attempt that one, Alice. So basically, pre-authorization would also depend upon, the nature of the transaction, as alluded by, Paddy in the previous slide, for the pre-authorization or any additional amount in the form of a tip, for that matter. It could vary between 15 to 20%. Paddy, keep me honest over here. Basically, any amount that you would bill at the end should not exceed 15 to 20%, depending upon the nature of the transaction. If it does exceed this percentage, you will have to take a fresh authorization. Is that correct, Paddy? Did I answer that correctly?
Yes, Vas, you're absolutely right. It's based upon the industry type. If it exceeds over a certain threshold, then you have to take a fresh authorization for the remaining amount.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Vas and Patty. And here's another question regarding the payment gateway. The merchants using the service of the payment gateway. In case of disputes, did the payment gateway service provider reach out to Amex, or the merchants need to reach out to Amex directly?
Okay, so that's a great question, actually, because we know that in this time and age, there are many merchants who are operating online and they depend on payment gateway. So it's basically depends on how you are set up with us. We have models where it is the payment gateway that submits the transaction, or we also have models where the merchant is the transaction is submitted by the merchant, but the processing happens via the payment gateway. So it depends on how you are set up. If you are the submitting merchant, then the inquiry or a chargeback notification will go through to you. If it is the payment gateway that is the submitting merchant, then it will be sent over to them. We are also aware that there are certain payment processors who provide dispute management services also. So again, it really depends upon how you are set up on our account, basis which the contacts will be sent, depending upon whether it's the payment gateway or you.
Thanks, Vance. And coming back to the previous question regarding the limit for tip adjustments for F&B outlets, thanks, Merchant, for further clarification. It's probably for Patty. So we've shared the limo and cab tip adjustment. So will there be any adjustments for F&B industry?
No, it's only for these particular industries. One is taxi, cab, and limousines, and one is for card not present retail and grocery. There's nothing which has come for F&B, but we hear you.
Thank you. And one more question. What if customer cancel the reservation due to subsequent lockdown? Can the merchant issue a refund voucher to the customers? It's from a Singapore merchant.
Okay, I'll take that question. It depends upon what was communicated to the card member at the time of booking. Now, if the merchant has decided to issue the vouchers, please communicate this to the card member. And if in case there's a dispute, please share all the relevant documentation with us and we will take it forward with the card member. So I'm stressing upon the terms and conditions at the time of booking it because it matters the most, and that helps us defend your disputes and chargebacks.
Thank you, Patty. Thanks so much, merchants, for asking our questions. Feel free to raise your questions if you still have any further doubts. I will still open up the Q&A session for a little while. Oh, here comes another one. This is a question from an Australian merchant. What if there is a delay in refund processing? Mr. Paddy, would you help to address it?
Can you repeat the question, Alice?
Sure. What if there is a delay in refund processing?
The delay in refund processing. Did I catch that question right? What if there is a delay in the refund processing, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'll take that question. So because during this pandemic, we did tell our card members to wait for 60 days. So even if there is a delay, not to worry, we keep telling the card members to wait, but sometimes the dispute comes in and you can share all the relevant supporting documentation with us and we take it forward with the card member. Again, I'll go back to this point. It is very important on what was communicated to the card member at the time of booking. Some merchants clearly communicate that the processing might take 90 days. So we tell the card member that they have to wait for this X number of days accordingly basis the terms and conditions. So if there is a delay in the refund of processing, just give us all the relevant supports and we will help you defend the chargebacks based upon the terms. Thanks, Alice.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you, Patty. All right. Since we have addressed most of the questions for today, if you still have any doubts, you may contact your client manager or simply call our hotline shown on the screen. Big thank you to our presenters, panelists, and to all of you for participating. As a reminder, your feedback is valuable, so we would really appreciate if you could take a couple of minutes to complete the survey that will appear as you close the webinar window. Thank you all again for your time. Stay safe and goodbye.
Thank you. Thanks you all for joining.
By click on the cross button. Thanks, everyone.